and welcome to day 3 of the Young Entrepreneurs of the World Conference 2022, the conference that focuses on the power of entrepreneurship. As part of One Business World's leading Entrepreneurs of the World platform, Young Entrepreneurs of the World offers students and young individuals access to leading entrepreneurs, business experts, academics, mentors, and peers for the ultimate shared learning experience. Our goal is to provide the resources that will inform, advise, and guide our future leaders so that they build solutions to take on the mounting environmental, social, and quality of life challenges our world faces. It has been a fabulous week so far. I'm Alicia Sedgwick, communication coach, and it is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker today, day 3 of the conference. Dr. Ravi Fernando is the chairman and CEO of Global Strategic Corporate Sustainability. Sharing one key case, he will inspire you to see the many ways to create new sustainable business opportunities in climate emergency ravaged agro supply chains with precision agriculture. Speaking on the topic of 21st century entrepreneurs with a sustainability mindset, please welcome Dr. Ravi Fernando.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having me on this program. I want to say a warm welcome to every one of you. And let me start today's session by simply saying, so who is a 21st century entrepreneur first? And then we'll talk about what with a sustainability mindset and the opportunity that Alice talked about. So a 21st century leader, a 21st century entrepreneur is one who exudes 4 characteristics. Number 1, is a leader who is one who takes decisions from a science-based background. So that's the first key element of a 21st century leader. And if you are a 21st century leader, and if you are a person who respects science, you will immediately begin to respect the challenges the planet is facing right now with what Antonio Guterres of the United Nations called it the climate emergency and the code red for humanity. So if you are science-based, you will know that the planet is facing unprecedented increases in temperatures, which is leading to unprecedented amount of extreme weather incidents. And these two combined is going to basically attack and put a major halt to the food supply chains of the world. And this is what I believe is something that all of us can very easily predict. But what is the cause of this? The cause is that we continue to burn fossil fuels unabated. So today, let me take you through a few slides to explain this issue. I started by saying Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, has called it a code red for humanity. And it wasn't long ago that US President Barack Obama once said, we are the first generation to feel the impact of the climate emergency and the last generation that can do something about it. So if we are the last generation to do something about it, today is the day that we are going to discuss how you can become a 21st century leader who is science-driven, science-based, but more than that, one who is attacking the issue of climate emergency ravaged food supply chains. So when the global risk report was first released this year for 2022, there were 2 major issues that were highlighted in it. Number 1, challenge number 1 or risk number 1 was climate action failure and the failure of leaders to have exited fossil fuels by now. The second issue was extreme weather incidents, and the third was biodiversity loss. If you look at the second and third, in terms of extreme weather incidents and biodiversity loss, both of these are directly impacting food supply chains in the world, and that is the reality that we are faced with. The term sustainability was first coined by John Elkington of Britain when he wrote the book Cannibals with Forks. And if you are a sustainability mindset 21st century entrepreneur, what you will do is to have a solid economic profit generating model which takes into consideration the global risks of extreme weather incidents and biodiversity loss and ensures environmental stewardship in terms of the planet, in terms of your business model. Secondly, you will also be someone who is contributing to the social progress of the community you operate in and every single person touched by your model. So that is what I would call a 21st century business model. And let's look at how this plays out when we look at the opportunities that are there. There are many, many opportunities in the 21st century for 21st century entrepreneurs, whether it is exiting fossil fuels and finding solutions through solar battery and floating solar, or resetting supply chains, and we are talking about that today, near sourcing, in-sourcing, reducing carbon footprint creatively, or health and emergency issues like solutions to deforestation, solutions to air pollution, solutions to waste management and plastic pollution, and agricultural food waste supply chains are all issues that we look at, and sustainable logistics and transportation. Every one of these items that I've shared with you could be a business opportunity and could very well be one that you can proceed with. But today, I'm going to focus on mass agriculture to precision agriculture and share with you what I think is one of the solutions, not the only solution, but one of the key solutions that we can garner in the event that our food supply chains are basically devastated by extreme weather incidents. Because wherever you have massive food supply chains, wherever the nations have massive land area cultivated, you can see that extreme weather incidents in the form of unprecedented temperature rise, unprecedented droughts, and, believe it or not, flooding like never before. All three of these three issues are going to attack the food supply chain and ruin all the crops that you have planted. So here is a potential solution that we are talking about. So recently in a McKinsey report I read, the greater frequency and severity of climate hazards can create more disruptions in global supply chains, interrupting production, rising costs and prices, and hurting corporate revenues. So we know food supply chains are going to be pretty much attacked with extreme weather incidents. Right now, I must mention, if one looks at the world today as we see it, besides extreme weather incidents destroying food supply chains, we are faced with a massive issue with what is happening with the war in Ukraine. And because Ukraine are amongst the top 4 exporters of some of the most important food supply chain items, from wheat to barley and rye to sunflower oil and sunflower seeds. This nation is a key nation in the whole global food supply chain. However, war has completely devastated this supply chain. Just imagine if extreme weather incidents, which is war to the power 10, devastates food supply chains, how we are going to handle this. Today, in the British BBC News, there was an item which said, the world is facing a massive hunger crisis. So we are, with one war in Ukraine, if we can face a massive hunger crisis, if you have extreme weather incidents which are to the power 10 of a war, how much more then would it devastate the agro supply chains? So one of the key sustainable development goals that one looks at is responsible consumption and production. And that is what I'm going to get to with precision agriculture. When we look at the massive impacts of deforestation in agricultural supply chains, overfishing in the supply chain of seafood, unsustainable resource utilization, and industrial farming, which is increasingly under pressure, and pollution. These 5 issues come and make sustainable consumption near impossible. However, we are talking of the need for reduced land use, improved overall health of those involved in the supply chain and those who are consuming it, creating new job opportunities, and looking at nature positive economies with more resources for governments. This is looking at sustainable consumption through the eyes of the UN Sustainable Development Goal 12. And I can tell you, precision agriculture meets all of these needs. Water stress is going to also dramatically impact almost every supply chain in the world. And here is an image that is showing us that most of the United States of America, as you can see it in this map, most of North Africa, most of the Middle East, most of India and China, and almost every one of the European nations are going to have unprecedented water stress by 2040, which is round the corner. Most of the mass agriculture in the world looks to ensuring that there is adequate water supply to achieve that. So if you have a water crisis, then you have a massive problem. 70% of all the freshwater resources on the planet are currently used for agriculture. And this is totally unacceptable and cannot go forward with this kind of water scarcity looming around the corner. So what is a sustainable supply chain and precision agriculture? So let me tell you, number one, sustainable agriculture, number one, will be extreme weather proof. In other words, it will shield itself from extreme weather incidents. Number two, it will have a low carbon footprint for a crop. Number three, it will have a low freshwater footprint in the agricultural supply chain. And fourthly, it will begin to shorten the gap between proximity of production to proximity of consumption. In other words, from simply being outsourced to insourced, from offshore to inshore, and precision agriculture can be set up mostly inshore and mostly very close to the consumption area. I'm not sure how many of you realize that Netherlands, Holland as some of you might call it, is the world's second largest exporter of agricultural produce and leader in agro research in the world today. How did Holland, with flat land, with less than a 5 million population, with hardly any land area, end up becoming the second largest exporter of agricultural produce in the whole planet? How did that happen? And today, there are 3 nations which are the frontline nations of producing agricultural and fruits. They are the United States, yet at number 1 position, followed by Holland, and Spain comes in at number 3. So what is precision agriculture? Precision agriculture is the area that Holland has focused on for almost the last 20 to 22 years. In fact, it was in a town called Wageningen, where the University of Wageningen is set up, which has 5 campuses and now has 13 universities, all focused on precision agriculture. And just to whet your appetites, precision agriculture, which is today estimated at $4.8 billion, is expected to grow to a $43.4 billion industry by 2025, which is for just 3 to 4 years down the road. That is how big the opportunity is for precision agriculture, which has already made Holland the second largest exporter of agricultural produce in the whole planet. So what are the benefits of precision agriculture. Benefit number one, it uses 90% less water than traditional mass agriculture. Just imagine if mass agriculture was using 70% of all the freshwater resources in the planet, if we can reduce that by 90%, that is the benefit of precision agriculture. And that is one of the key areas where the concepts of hydroponics and aquaponics play a major role. Number two, precision agriculture uses 50% less fertilizer, and that again is a massive saving. Why? Because it is able to be precise in AI-driven delivery of nutrients by single plant. And that is the reason we will use 50% less fertilizer when it comes to precision agriculture. The fourth benefit is that it will have less climate impact in vertical greenhouses. I'm not saying it won't have climate impact. It will have climate emergency impacts and extreme weather incidents, but much less impact than if you were in open field mass agriculture. And last but not least, you will end up with predictable and better yields which are 3 to 4 times larger than mass agriculture in the space of land that you will allocate for precision agriculture. This is a quick positioning of how amazing precision agriculture is to the future of agricultural supply chains. And if one looks at the Wageningen University research on climate smart precision agriculture, today, precision agriculture or smart farming basically looks at the reviewing through observation, diagnostics, decisions and implementation, a circular strategy to ensure precision agriculture succeeds. Plants get precisely the treatment they need and great accuracy thanks to the latest technology. It also has GPS positioning in terms of every one of the plants it has, sensor technology, and it uses ICT and robotics in its whole strategy. Precision agriculture uses sensors and remote sensing, high precision positioning systems, geomapping, and is able to almost, through geomapping, decide on by plant the kind of nutrients that is needed and also what areas are relevant and good for precision agriculture. Automated steering systems, variable rate technology, and integrated electronic communications. This is the promise of precision agriculture. And what we are looking at is a revolution that has already started, that is very advanced in Holland. And like I said, is already delivering on precision agriculture all over the world. I already showed you the map of water scarcity in the United States. And this is the forecasted water scarcity in the USA, which is going to be one of the biggest challenges for mass agriculture as we knew it. Because just imagine if 70% of the world's freshwater resources, by the way, there's only 3% of freshwater in the planet. So of the 3%, we are using 70% for 60 to 70% for agriculture. But if you have a scarcity of water, then you have a massive problem. And I think a 21st century precision agriculture led strategies will help to fight the code red for humanity and fight the code red in terms of sustainable supply chains in agro and food and fruit industries, and will provide a solution. And we can learn a lot on how to do this and what successes they've had. And just to tell you further, in that image at the top, the Wageningen University, they have 5 campuses. Each one of them is absolutely focused and doing research on a crop. So it is crop-specific agriculture by campus. And that is the level of input they're putting behind the agro research in precision agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to this short session on sustainable food supply chains and precision agriculture, I hope each of you who have an entrepreneurial spirit in you, we all know we cannot survive without food. We cannot survive without fruit and vegetable, and we cannot survive without water. One way to secure our diminishing water resources is to make sure we use less and less of that in agro production because of one major reason. If you study agro supply chains in the world, you will realize that a majority of at least 30 to 40% of every one of the agricultural crops that we produce loses about 20 to 30% on simply getting from the farm to the fork, or getting from the place of production to the place of consumption. And if you lose so much of it on the supply chain, then the amount of water that went to produce 30% of that agricultural produce is wasted. And this is another reason we need to be looking at precision agriculture. And we can live without most things, but I don't think any one of us are going to be able to live without water and food. And as we look at the 21st century, as we look at a world ravaged by extreme weather incidents, biodiversity loss, and of course, climate action failure on the part of many world leaders who haven't exited fossil fuels yet, this could become a very important solution to providing food and vegetables, fruit and vegetables on everyone's plate. And this is the reason that I am advocating this as a potential area. Now, if you were to start on this precision agriculture, I would strongly urge you to the 3 steps to follow. Step number 1, Google the University of Wageningen and learn all you can from their website, because they have some amazing tutorials and amazing education on how someone should be starting on a precision agriculture project. Number 2, look at, you don't need many acres and hectare acres of land. What you're looking for is a very small area of land, but having your facility a high-rise building with high technology embedded in it. Thirdly, in terms of facilitating this entire project, you will need some sustainable finance to come into it. And as you look at sustainable finance, you'll be amazed that how many of the European banks are today running after people who want to be in precision agriculture and supporting them financially to get their business off the ground. And one such bank that I have worked very closely with is the European Investment Bank based in Luxembourg. The European Investment Bank, for those of you who might have heard it for the first time, is the world's largest multilateral funding institution, lending institution. It disburses nearly 80 billion euros per annum. And this 80 billion euros that they are disbursing is pretty much about 90% focused on Europe, but there's a 10% of 80 billion euros available for projects outside of the European Union as well. And I'm aware of many organizations outside of Europe who are using the funds from the European Investment Bank to help them start up precision agriculture projects in their nations and in their countries. So overall, we have an amazing opportunity to face a climate crisis and a climate emergency and a code red for humanity through building precision agriculture solutions to feed the world, as we look at a world that is increasingly devastated Now, with geopolitical issues like we have in Russia, where with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we have climate change issues to do with extreme weather and extreme temperatures. And then you have three kinds of extreme weather which are devastating agricultural supply chains. And these three issues are increasing in frequency. The amount of days we now experience unprecedented temperature rise. And if you look at the last 21 years that this planet has, 22 years of the planet, the last 20 years of the 22 have been the hottest ever years recorded on the planet. So I'm sure I don't need to convince you any further that a combination of extreme weather incidents and the combination of devastating issues to do with fossil fuels burning, which leads to higher temperatures, are going to have a dramatic effect on all of us. So with that, I want to call back Alicia, and I'm open to answering any questions that you have in this session.
Ravi, thank you so much. I don't see that there are any questions in the Q&A. If anyone wants to write any in the chat now, I'd be very happy to receive them. We just have 3 minutes before the end of this session. And in case there aren't any questions, I would just like to say at this stage, Ravi, thank you so much. It's so informative. And I wondered actually, why is Holland so such a leader in this development of the precision agriculture? Why Holland?
So this, I think, is a strategy that Holland mapped out nearly 25 years back, Alicia. They realized that they wanted to play in the agricultural and fruit and vegetable, and of course, Holland is known for the cut flower business. I think Holland began with great success in the cut flower businesses. And as you know, Holland was the centerpiece of all the cut flower business in the world. I think this inspired the leaders of Holland nearly 20 years ago to say, if we can become the world leader in the cut flower business, why aren't we able to become leaders in agriculture and fruit and vegetables? And then I think the real spark came with the leaders saying, we want to be the world leader in precision agriculture. And then the setting up and the amazing development of the Wageningen University has been the three contributory factors. So if I were to summarize them, a visionary leadership based on a success factor of cut flowers, setting up of a almost second to none agro research centers in Wageningen with a ecosystem of 13 universities, all linked to the Wageningen campus, all in precision agriculture, and looking at every little detail of that. And thirdly, putting all this research and knowledge into practice. In fact, I must mention in closing that Holland today, Wageningen today is referred to as the Silicon Valley of precision agriculture.
Incredible. There is another question, but I've just got a minute, if you can answer it in a minute, or otherwise, if you could go to the chat, Ravi. It is, what is your one thing you would suggest women writers in emerging leadership positions might do in developing regions? That might take you longer than a minute.
I will do it in a minute.
Okay.
My serious advice to all women writers is, I have the highest regard and respect for women, because women in most nations where there is climate emergency have been better leaders than men. And the reason for that is women are more sensitive to science and respect science more, and they also bring in the natural instinct of family. So I would strongly urge the questioner, the person who put the question, to look at how you can inspire more women leaders in developing nations to be science-led in their decision-making.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. I hope that Kat answered your question. I feel that it did. Yes, the response is thank you so very much. Yes, women are closer to community, also science, family inspired by your comments. Science-led coming. Fantastic. Thank you, Ravi, so much. I've learnt a great deal, and I'm sure that our audience has too. Thank you very much.